Dumbledore is not the hero he is made out to be. Mate. Coming on strong. What's up, book nerds? I'm Lucky's Universe, and today I'm going to be reacting to your controversial book opinions. I took to TikTok to ask you for all of your controversial book opinions. If you don't already follow me on TikTok, this is me shamelessly plugging it. And I've accumulated a list of the best questions and we're gonna go through them today. This isn't gonna be me dragging people's weird book habits. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion about books. Art is subjective, our opinions are subjective. So this isn't hate, this is discussion. Remember, on this channel we promote debate, not hate. And I hope some people have noticed I've rearranged my bookshelf, I color-coded it, and I'm really proud of it. So if you don't notice that, please notice that. Give me validation for that. Now I have my tea, I have my questions, and we're gonna get right into it. We encounter a similar problem to last time. The tea is too hot. No, I'm not gonna risk my taste buds today. Oh, no. Alright, first up, opinion number one. You don't have to own a lot of books to love them. I 100% agree with this opinion. I think it's something that I came across a lot when I joined the online book community. You see a lot of booktubers with like these huge bookshelves of books, and a lot of people on Bookstagram have that sort of like, I've got a million books aesthetic. And it kind of started to make me feel a little bit insignificant amongst the community, because I was like, I don't have a lot of books, so can I do this whole booktube, book talk, bookstagram thing? I actually have an entire little section of my bookshelf that's dedicated to books that I loaned from the library. I also have a ton of books that my friends loan me, because not all of us are in the financially advantageous position to be able to afford to buy books all the time. I personally don't usually have a lot of money left over in my budget to afford books, so I try to only buy books that I really love and then loan everything else. And that's totally okay. You do not have to own lots of books to love books. That being said, if you're someone who does have the money and likes to spend it on books, that's fine too. If that's what makes you happy and you have the space and the money, go for it. The aesthetic is really nice. Moment of truth. Nice. Opinion number two. I've never read Harry Potter, and at this point I don't think I want to. Okay, I relate to this statement quite a bit because I was actually planning on reading Harry Potter this year because it seemed like something that the online community was doing. People who hadn't read Harry Potter when they were younger were gonna read it now and like turn it into videos or readathons or things like that. But given all of the recent J.K. Rowling controversy, I'm pretty happy in my decision to just not read Harry Potter. I totally understand if you're someone who read Harry Potter as a child and have like a big connection to that book and it brings nostalgia for you, and if that's your thing, then it's your choice. If it makes you happy, I'm all for it. However, since I didn't read it when I was a kid, and I watched the movies, but I was never super into Harry Potter. I thought it was a good movie series, but it wasn't good enough for me to read the books. And I think because I don't have that childhood nostalgia, it's really easy for me to just be like, you know what? I'm not gonna read it. So that might disappoint a lot of people, because there are tons of people in my comments whenever I mention that I haven't read Harry Potter, they're like, you need to read it. But yeah, sorry to disappoint, but I don't think that's gonna be happening. Opinion number three. Listening to the audiobook while reading is a great way to immerse yourself and read faster. I love doing it. I didn't actually think about this. I definitely see how it could be kind of relaxing to have someone read the book to you while you're reading. I think for me though, personally, I'd get frustrated because I don't know if this ever happened to anyone else, but do you remember in English class where you would be studying a book and every now and then the teacher would get someone to read out paragraphs, like you'd have to read a chapter for class and they get someone to read every other paragraph. I would always get really frustrated because I would be reading ahead, like the person would be talking too slow for my reading pace. Like I wouldn't call myself a fast reader, however, I read faster than I talk. So I think for me, the audiobook reader would be too slow and I'd just read ahead, so there would be no point. However, I can totally see why people would enjoy listening to the audiobook and reading the book at the same time. Number 4. I like books with dog ears. I do it all the time because I think they look more personal, but I would never do it to a book I don't own. Tea. This is an ongoing discussion in the online book community about whether it's okay to dog ear your pages. And personally, I don't have a problem with it. Like this person said, if it's your own book. I totally believe that if you paid for the book, if it's yours, you can do whatever you want to it, save for like completely destroying it to the point where it can't be read. I can't get on board with that. If you want to dog ear your book, totally up to you. Just don't ever dog ear someone else's book or a library book, because the book community will come for you. Number 5. I always read the last page of the book I'm buying in the bookstore. I never remember what it says, but I can't help it. I used to do this all the time when I was younger. I would always read the last couple of pages, not straight away, but once I got a few chapters in and like the main couple was introduced or a couple that I wanted to get together, I would skip to the end to see if they ended up together. But I haven't really read the end of a book before I finished a book in, I'm gonna say like 10 years. I just kind of stopped doing it, I don't know why. Now I'm a little less inclined to want spoilers. I kind of want to be surprised. So now when I'm buying a book in a bookstore or in a library, I always just read the first chapter. That way I can see generally what the story's about, what the writing style is like, and I can kind of judge by the first chapter whether or not I'll be interested in the rest of the book, and I just go with that. Number 6. That's not a 6, but okay. Books with very limited and unimportant people of color isn't actually okay. Everyone deserves recognition. Sis, yes. I get really annoyed when I see people of color characters in books and they're always just the side character, or they're a character who dies really early on. Either that or they're seriously racially stereotyped. I don't understand why it's not just an accepted fact that we need good representation in books, not just books, but just like any media that is consumed by the public needs representation. I'm currently writing a fantasy novel myself, and I've been doing a lot of experimenting with ambiguous character description. So instead of describing the way that a character physically looks, like their skin or their hair, although in some cases I do put in a little bit here and there, I try and leave most of it up to the imagination and describe the character not on their physical appearance, but based on the way that they move, or the sound of their voice, or the overall presence that they have on other characters. This way I'm hoping that it can be kind of left up to the reader to imagine what they look like, and they can make this character look however they want to in their head. At this point, I don't know if it's gonna work. I'm really hoping it does, because I think it would be a really interesting sort of way to describe characters. Also, the fan art would be so cool because it would all be different. Number 7. Dumbledore is not the hero he is made out to be. Mate. Coming on strong. But I can't disagree. Just reinstating, I've never read the Harry Potter books, so what I'm about to say is based on the movies. And I didn't really like Dumbledore in the movies, to be honest. I don't know, he just seems like kind of an incompetent headmaster. Like, there's freaking trolls in the bathrooms, and like a tree that kills people, and dementors that are surrounding the school, and Dumbledore's like, it's fine, we don't need to send children home. Hogwarts is like a super safe school to be in. Everyone's like, people are literally dying and being like cursed and going missing, and there's ogres and snakes and trolls, and yeah, this sounds like a safe environment, Dumbledore. Real safe. Good on ya. Number 8. Most popular fantasy YA books follow the same trope, and it is no longer appealing to me. Agree and disagree. On the one hand, I feel like in terms of just the YA genre on its own, I think there are plenty of books that are different. However, this opinion does state that it's YA fantasy, in which case I kind of agree that most YA fantasies these days, at least the ones that I read, almost always follow an enemies to lovers plotline, which is fine. Enemies to lovers is fine when done well, but it's just that it's being done all the time, so it's kind of becoming boring and overdone. Number 9. Books made me attracted to abusive behavior, and I've had to work to get through it, and that a man shouldn't be aggressive. Sis. There's definitely a lot of toxic masculinity and aggressive / abusive behavior in books, especially young adult, which I highly disagree with, because the young adult genre is aimed at 12 to 18-year-olds roughly, and 18 not so much, but definitely in that younger age bracket. People who read this book are usually very impressionable, specifically impressionable young girls, and so we really have to be careful when writing for that age group of the messages that we're sending and the messages that we're projecting onto them. I think there's definitely a lot of male love interests that display heavy abusive behavior, controlling behavior, but it's passed off as them being protective, or it's passed off as something that's sexy or to be desired, and it's just a really dangerous tightrope to be walking on, really. Number 10, you shouldn't bend book pages. Again, this is kind of the same as dog-earing books. If it's your own book, have at it. If it's not your book, lay off. Number 11, audiobooks are not real books and could never capture my entire focus the way an actual book could. Although I will almost always choose to read a physical book over an audiobook, I do think audiobooks are really useful for me personally, when I travel home to see my parents. It's like a 5.5 hour drive, and I like to listen to audiobooks in the car. Sometimes if I'm really busy and I don't have time to just like sit down and read, having an audiobook is really helpful. I definitely think listening to audiobooks counts as reading. And I think it's kind of ableist to say that listening to audiobooks isn't reading, because then that excludes an entire community of people who maybe aren't able to physically see words. So do they not count as readers because they can't physically read? So yeah, audiobooks are real books. You can listen to purely audiobooks and still be a reader. Number 12. There should be official drawings of characters and fictional worlds on the author's website so it doesn't get into confusion. It's interesting to think about. On the one hand, I get where this is coming from, because sometimes people get into disputes about what characters look like, and that's fine. It would kind of be nice to have an official drawing commissioned like by the author about like, this is officially what this character looks like. However, I think that takes a bit of the creativity away from people who do fan art, because there's, it's nice to have a bit of creative freedom and creating a character the way that you imagine them, not necessarily the way that the author imagines them. Because I find it really interesting to see like lots of different fan art on the same character, just to see how different people interpret them and how different people see them. Number 13. The pronunciation of character names should be explained somehow in the book. It gets really awkward when you talk about the book with other people. Dude, been there. I know in some books, especially high fantasy series, where usually people have very complicated names, sometimes at the end of the book, there's a whole list of the character names and how to pronounce them. However, I feel like it would be more useful to have it at the beginning of the book, because I don't think it necessarily gives away anything about the characters that are going to be in the story, but it would just be helpful to know how to pronounce their names before I start reading. Otherwise, I'm just going to pronounce them wrong the entire book, and then even when I get to the end and see how they're properly pronounced, I'm still going to pronounce it the way that I started. Number 14. Book series are way better than a single book, especially when it comes to fantasy, where you would like to explore the world more. Okay, if you'd asked me in high school, I would have 100% agreed that series way better than standalones. However, this year I've actually really started to get into standalones and really enjoy them, because I'm short of time and I don't often have the time to commit to a full series, or sometimes when I read the first book in a series and I don't like it, but I'm like, but I've started the series, so I guess I kind of need to finish it, because perfectionist, can't leave anything undone, control issues. So I actually have grown to appreciate standalones, because you're one and done, you move on. And I guess in fantasy, maybe series work better for people, but I've actually read a couple of really good fantasy standalones, in particular, the two by Erin Morgenstern, The Starless Sea and The Night Circus. So I can't say for sure whether series or standalones are better, especially when it comes to fantasy, but I've really come to appreciate standalones. Number 15. Paperbacks are just sad because they can get wrecked real easy if you aren't careful. Okay, so now we're getting into the whole hardcover versus paperback discussion. I feel like hardcovers have a time and place. For instance, right here I have my classic shelf, which I keep all of my sort of classic literature. I really like my classic novels to have hardcovers just because I feel like it helps with the vibe. However, in general day-to-day, I do prefer paperbacks. Not just any paperback though, a floppy paperback. I love a good floppy, flexible paperback. I really don't like when paperbacks are super stiff, which is unfortunate with my Six of Crows duology. They're super stiff, so I feel like I need to read it a bunch more times to make it floppy. Oh no, what a terrible thing. I'm gonna have to reread the Six of Crows duology. Oh, how terrible. Number 16. I cannot stand enemies to lovers. Oh dude, I feel you. Enemies to lovers used to be one of my favorite tropes, but I think now everything, almost everything, especially in fantasy, it's always enemies to lovers, to the point where it's just not fun anymore. That being said, I have read some really good enemies to lovers, for instance Nina and Matthias in the Six of Crows duology, and Kabru and Akiva in the Daughter of Smoke and Bone series by Laini Taylor. Number 17. Authors are better than actors, and the whole argument about that is just useless. I think there's no way to tell who's better because they're both in the arts industry, but they're both doing different jobs, so it's kind of just, it's redundant. It's stupid to just compare them because it's like comparing a tiger to a fish. Yeah, they're both animals, but like they're both different animals. They excel at different things. And finally, question number 18. Why did I end on a question 18? Do I have an issue with ending on odd numbers? Yes. So did I add another opinion to make it number 18? Yes. Control issues. Reading fast and all the time doesn't make you a better book fan. Preach it, sis. If you read slow or you read fast, it's totally fine. Being a fast reader doesn't make you better than anyone else. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. That concludes my reactions of your controversial book opinions. Remember to like, subscribe, and share this video. If you don't already follow me on TikTok, go check that out. I post some pretty cool stuff on there. I'll also leave a link below to my Twitter and my Goodreads. And if you haven't been keeping up to date with my latest TikTok videos, you might not know that my older brother has a Twitch account. And because I am the world's best sister, I'm here plugging his channel. His username is Magic Spag Sauce because in Australia that's a completely acceptable name. If you want to check him out, you can follow the link below. He's actually pretty good, so if you're into gaming and things like that, definitely check him out. Also, surprise, surprise, I have a Patreon account now. If you want to help a girl out and become a member, you can be eligible for all different types of benefits, like early access to my YouTube videos, Bookstagram style updates, access to my drafts and works in progress, shout outs on my social medias, and if you're in the highest tier, I will even edit your work. No pressure, but if you want to, it's there. Again, link below. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you later.